I don't know. No one's ever had that size and scope of foundation before. And she's already proven when she was Secretary of State that the foundation was actually taking significant amounts of money from countries that were in front of the Secretary of State for consideration of issues.
I mean, I think if they, they keep doing this investigation about her emails, but I really think if they did a really good investigation about this foundation, they'd see a lot of wrongdoing there. I mean, Bill was out promoting money from foreign governments while Hillary was in office.
Well, worse than that, there are governments that had specific issues in front of the State Department that made large donations to the foundation and then had favorable results from the State Department. And there's email traffic showing coordination of some of that.
The Clinton I'm reading a little article here. The Clinton Foundation and its various offshoots have raised about $2 billion from wealthy individual corporations, especially Wall Street, and foreign governments.
Well, since Franklin's not here, it does behoove me on his behalf to say that there have been lots of Republican committees on this, and until she is indicted, arrested, locked away, put on trial, and put in the electric chair, I think she's innocent.
Well, the problem is she hasn't, for example, this latest report on her email, all through this thing, the press is a huge piece of this. All through this thing, she said she wanted this out there and she would fully cooperate. Well, guess what? She didn't fully cooperate. Didn't allow any deposition to be taken. Didn't allow any of her people to be deposed on this. So if she's so fully cooperative with it, why didn't she go ahead and give testimony?
You're parsing words, John.
Well, she's fought this thing, everything, even Benghazi. Have we ever gotten a full investigation done on Benghazi? Franklin says, "Oh, here we go again. Here we go again." I can hear it.
Just a minute. Here we go again.
One of the problems is you can't have a full investigation when you're not allowed to produce all the evidence. You've got witnesses to the Benghazi attack that have never been identified and allowed to testify.
Yeah.
The government has that, and a few of them have quit their job and then come forward and said, we were suppressed and told not to testify.
I'll tell you something that got my attention was on Memorial Day. They interviewed the guy that, one of the guys that was involved in trying to go in and help save the people.
Right.
And he made a comment that, Hillary said that they were lying. Those soldiers were lying about what they said.
Right.
He said he'll never forgive Hillary Clinton.
Well, she said that the family, the parents of the dead Americans were lying about what she said to them at the funeral service.
Yeah. And these guys that were there testified what happened, and she says they're lying.
Right.
Now then, how can all these people be lying and Hillary be right all the time?
Well, it's the same group of people that altered that video of her landing in Afghanistan under heavy machine gun fire. They edited all of that heavy machine gun fire out, apparently, according to Hillary.
Do you think that Donald Trump has a good reason to call her lying Hillary?
She's clearly one of the best liars we've had in government for years, and her husband was too.
When she runs out of anything to talk about, she just tells a lie, right?
Well, they are career politicians that will say and do anything to get what they want, to maintain their lifestyle.
Oh, yeah, I do need to say this also on behalf of Franklin regarding Benghazi. One of your own guys, Bob Corker, said everything is fine. Your own guys!
Well, that's one of the problems. We would have been better represented. I don't mean in Tennessee, the Senate, but as the party, by someone who will call a liar a liar. Oh, wait a minute. We had someone. His name was Ted Cruz, and everybody said that was a bad thing for him to actually call people a liar. You had someone who did take a stand, who did say this is wrong, and apparently that's not what we actually
I think
wanted.
Donald Trump's the best at it, too.
Are you talking about lying, Ted?
He'll call him a liar and not have to and
not have to back it up,
and not take 6 months to think about it.
No, it just takes 6 months to donate the money to veterans
and not have to back it up.
Look, I'm all for Donald Trump winning at this point because Hillary is a disaster, but we're still not dealing with the issues at hand. When Donald Trump says that we don't need to deal with entitlement reform, he's just wrong. And he's playing the same game. That's a really hard thing for people to hear, because almost everybody in this country at this point is receiving some kind of entitlement from the government.
Right.
The fact is, we can't afford what we're doing now. We just can't afford it, and it has to be dealt with.
John, don't you think it will be dealt with?
Well, not according to Trump or Clinton. Both of them have the same, and Bernie Sanders. They all three have the same position that entitlement reform is off the table.
It
can't be off the table.
I got a feeling one of them will do something about it.
In other words, he's not telling us what he's really going to do until he gets in there.
Got to have the votes right now.
Well, the problem with that is when Nancy Pelosi said you got to pass the bill to find out what's in the bill, we criticized her for that tactic.
Yeah. And we always will.
Again, for Franklin, John, as I've been saying for years, you keep saying that we need entitlement reform. What are you going to change? I need a plan.
I've told him over and over and over again. You're going to have to for people below.
John and I could right now in the next 30 minutes. We could probably take a whole lot out of the government.
Well, actually, I would do probably exactly what Paul Ryan has put forward. So I'm hoping Donald Trump will come around and understand that has to be something that's done.
Hey, John, so you'll feel a little more comfortable. I think he will.
Well, I'm glad you have that insight.
I think he's a pretty smart businessman. He'll see the light. What do you think about Bob Corker in line for the vice president?
I think Corker's as sharp as a tack. I think he's very, very sharp. I think he's been a good businessman who built a business from nothing. I think he'd be a good choice. I'm not sure, this is a hard year to figure, because normally you'd look at the state that they come from and what does it bring. Now because of the dynamics of Trump and some of his weaknesses in some areas, you've got some other things coming into play. The candidate who's run against government is now viewed as not having enough connections to someone who understands government. So you're having people like Newt Gingrich and Bob Corker being put forward as a good balance for that.
Yeah. But I'll tell you something, Newt Gingrich, every time I listen to him or read anything he's written, he's amazing.
Sharp as a tack. But here's the problem. Donald Trump ran against people like Newt Gingrich and Bob Corker. And now, we're talking about them being the VP. Well, but that's just me hanging on to those old things that he said a week ago.
Hey, John.
Instead of
they've come around now too, haven't they?
Well, yeah, the dynamic comes around. It's, winning is not the same thing as winning with principle.
When do you think? There's a lot of GOP people now. Some of them are even trying to stir up some deal by putting in another candidate.
No, that's Bill Kristol.
Let's get over this. Let's move on and try to work together.
Well, first off, Trump should work on some of this too. Attacking the only female Hispanic governor in the country who's actually relatively successful, Republican governor, by the way, is a mistake.
Why wasn't she there when he went to speak?
I don't care.
Wait a minute. Why wasn't she supported? Why wasn't she supported?
Look,
now then, you know what he said? And I don't blame him. He said, if they're not going to support me, why do I support them?
Well, here's the point, that we got a long way to go. And
yeah, but he's not going to let these people try to flex their muscles around him.
You mean an elected governor in a sitting elected governor in a state who, let me go back to my sign placing thing. Someone who's been on the ground doing the hard work for years, he's not going to let that person have any due.
Hey, why won't she show him at least the courtesy of being there when he comes to the state and does a rally? She stuck her nose up there and turned and wouldn't have anything to do with it. So why should he have anything to do with her?
That you've got successful examples. Ronald Reagan knew how to bring people together. Mm-hmm. Trump needs to figure out how to bring people together.
He does, John.
No, he doesn't.
No, John.
That's not how you bring people together.
He doesn't kiss anybody's rear end. Because
there's a difference between not kissing. There's a difference between not kissing anybody's rear end and being unnecessarily ugly. And he's unnecessarily ugly too often.
No, it's just like the news reporters yesterday. Who in the world would have challenged those news reporters like he did?
Well, I'm not terribly opposed to Chet.
You know what? Everybody loves it because he's exactly
right.
But
here's the deal. She's a Republican governor. She's not a Democrat news.
Then he's a Republican candidate that's absolutely going to be the next president.
That's still hard for people like me to swallow.
He is the Republican candidate
but
on the Republican Party.
Should she not have been there supporting the Republicans?
Well, look. Not all governor, Haslam didn't show up when a lot of things happen. They don't always show up. And what you do is you handle those things with some grace and with some dignity. You can criticize someone without being ugly to them. And he needs to learn how to criticize without being ugly.
I don't think he did anything ugly, did he?
Yes, he was ugly to her.
What did he do?
It was a mean-spirited, ugly. He attacked her.
What did he do?
You can say. Here's what you do. You say something like, I really wish the governor had been able to be there. I'm sure she had some very important things to do. You can even put a little slam in it by saying, I'm sure she had a ribbon.
Do you know what? Everybody in Washington, that's the way they would have done it.
Well,
but they hadn't gotten anywhere either.
I'm supporting him, but I'm telling you, Steve, you're gonna if it's President Trump, there's going to be some things come up where he doesn't change, because I'm not sure he's able to change, and I don't think philosophically that he is anywhere near as conservative as I am. And I don't think he's really particularly conservative at all on a lot of issues. And I think you're going to be shocked by some of the things that happen in that administration. Now, not as shocked as we will be at a Hillary Clinton administration. Well, so that's where we're at today.
John, I think, I hate to say this, but I think we've gotten too far right, and I think they've gotten too far left.
I've asked you this before. What are we too far right on? Entitlement reform, paying your bills, that's too far right?
No, wait a minute. You say that...
tell me what we're too far right on. Tell me what issue are we too far right on?
Negotiations.
Of what?
Anything. Getting anything accomplished. You got to deal with the Democrats to get anything done.
And tell me what issue we've won and they've lost on.
Tell me one that we've won.
We haven't. That's
my
point.
Go.
No, you're talking. Steve, you just made the argument that we need to negotiate better. The Democrats have kicked our ass every step of the way, and you're still out here saying we're too conservative.
Because you want.
We want to pay our bills. We want to actually lower taxes.
John,
we want human life to be protected. We want your gun rights to be protected.
Do you think things have gotten better by not negotiating?
We do talk.
By not negotiating, you think things have gotten better?
Is building a wall by Mexico a bipartisan effort, do you suspect?
It was. But they never came through with their part. Now let's see if he builds his wall. Because he's already said we weren't really talking about building a wall.
I'm going to write him. I've got an idea how to save a lot of money on that.
How's that?
Just build 2 fences and put landmines in between them. That way, if anybody breaks over them, just blow them up. We don't even need guards then. Okay. What do you think, John?
I don't think that'll fly.
But would it work?
It'd work. There's a lot of things that'll work.
Well, that way we can save some money.
You could put overlapping machine gun fire in them, and it'd work. Now, whether the public will go for that or not, I don't know.
2 fences and land.
This is a part of the problem is we have to have a revival of decency and a revival of integrity in the country. We've got people now upset over shooting this gorilla when there was a human life at stake. We spent an entire day. Matter of fact, we spent Memorial Day. Instead of talking about the men and women that have sacrificed for this country, we talked about a gorilla. You know what? I'm not that broken up about the gorilla. I mean, I'm sorry it had to be killed, but it had to be killed. And if it hadn't been killed, then we would have been criticizing the zoo for allowing that little boy to.
Well, now they're running an investigation against the family.
Well, they're talking about filing charges against the zoo as well. Now, the family, should the mother have had a better hold on that child? Yeah, absolutely.
But are kids squirmy?
But these things happen all the time. And the fact that it was a gorilla just changed. What if she hadn't been looking and that child had wandered out in the street and got hit by a car, which happens all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Saying there's no difference. You investigate. Was there negligence? If there's negligence, there are avenues to do. But my problem is we're not upset that the child was endangered. We're upset that the gorilla had to be killed.
No kidding.
That's the problem for me. I'm okay with saying the mother should have kept a better watch, and maybe she does need to, maybe it was negligent. But the problem there is you do that motivated by this risk danger to the child. That's not what these people are motivated by. They're motivated by being upset that the gorilla had to be killed. You know, those are the same people that were upset about Cecil the lion, who that animal park in Africa is now going to have to kill 200 lions because they're overpopulated, because the Cecil the lion people did such a good job of shutting down the hunting operations in that area that they don't have any money anymore, and now the park's overpopulated, and they're going to slaughter 200 lions in that park. So congratulations, animal rights people. You've successfully had 200 lions slaughtered.
The gorilla incident. You know, the gorilla is such a loving animal. Who's cradled some of these kids.
Well, first off, the gorilla probably, to be honest, wasn't doing anything wrong, because that is the way they drag their little ones around. The difference is human bodies aren't made to be drug around like that. So water. The gorilla wasn't doing anything wrong. Probably wasn't threatening the child.
You know what amazes me is the child didn't look like he was having
wasn't hurt real bad, but there's no way to know, and there's no way to know whether you could have gotten the child back from the gorilla.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, even Jack Hanna was on last night, said, look, they had to shoot the gorilla.
High risk.
You know, if they tranquilized it, they ran the risk of it actually getting worse.
Oh, yeah, and getting angry. And and they said that gorilla can break a coconut open with a single hand.
I mean, they're incredibly powerful animals.
Yeah.
But now I'll get real controversial on you here. Here's the thing we've lost. God created man. God created the animals. God gave man dominion over the animals. We have lost sight of our place in God's created order.
We're all just animals.
I agree.
You know, we've elevated animals up to should we be cruel and horrible to them? No, certainly not. That's not what I'm saying. But we do have dominion over the animals. And when you have the interest of the animal versus the interest of the human, you choose the human.
Only one of those is made in the image of God. Now, keep in mind,
these same people are the same people that are pro-choice. They're the same people that don't have a problem in the world with tens of thousands of human babies being terminated, never getting the chance to live every year. But they're upset about this one gorilla being shot.
I'm kind of shocked that there was a place for the child to get into the gorillas.
Well, I agree. That probably needs to be looked at as from the zoo standpoint of why was those bars thin enough.
I mean, you have an animal like that, and you have children visiting the zoo, so it should be child-proofed.
It sounds like it was for about 20, 30 years, something. It just takes one kid, though, to find the chink in the armor.
We don't know. They could have lowered the child over it.
Yeah.
Somebody could have lowered him down.
Do you remember that ad campaign back in maybe the 90s? It would say, save the whales, and it would have a baby dressed up in a whale suit.
Oh, yeah.
Which kind of made the point you were just talking about as far as priorities. And
Mitch McConnell says that Trump is not going to change the GOP. What's your opinion?
I think he's probably right.
What are you saying, the party as a whole, right?
But now think about that for a minute, Steve. Think about what you just ranted at me about. So Mitch McConnell was the enemy. Mitch McConnell was the bad guy who couldn't get anything accomplished. Mitch McConnell was the establishment. Mitch McConnell now says Trump's fine, and he's not going to change anything. I thought the whole point of the Trump candidacy was change.
Well, I'm hoping there aren't changes, because
you're hoping Mitch McConnell's wrong.
I hope Mitch McConnell's wrong.
So Mitch McConnell's come over and done exactly what you said. He's come over. He's supported the Donald now, but you're hoping that he's wrong.
That's right.
Okay.
I think Donald is
not a lot. That's not a straight line in logic on your part, Steve.
The problem is Donald will have a lot of changes to make, but the system won't let him make them, is what I'm afraid of.
That's what Mitch McConnell just said. He's not going to change the system.
Yeah.
On behalf of Franklin, I'd like to say I've had a very peaceful show and just let you guys yell at each other.
Let me finish with one thing, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I was flipping through something. I came across a speech that President Reagan made in '83 on Memorial Day, and it brought something up I wasn't familiar with, so I looked it up. I don't know if you all have heard of Private Treptow's Pledge. You heard that?
What is it?
Private Treptow's Pledge. It was a World War I. Actually, it ended up on a World War I poster. But towards the end of his inaugural address, President Reagan spoke of monuments to heroism, and with the struggle to control his voice, drew attention to the sloping hills of Arlington National Cemetery with its row upon row of simple white markers. Now, this is a quote from the speech. Reagan said, "Under such a marker lies a young man, Martin Treptow, who left his job in a small-town barbershop in 1917 to go to France with the famed Rainbow Division. After Private Treptow was killed, a diary was found in which he had inscribed the following pledge." Now, this was in his pocket that he was carrying on his uniform. "America must win this war. Therefore, I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure, I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone." That's Memorial Day, or should have been what Memorial Day was about.
I bet you went to Memorial Day service downtown.
I actually did not.
You did. You normally go to it, I bet.
I do usually.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've had another exciting week. Franklin should be back next week with his battery recharge coming in from Chicago. So
maybe you can tell us how it's working up there.
Yeah, let's have some Chicago issues that we can talk
Oh,
about.
Katie Couric finally apologized for misediting her special on guns.
Is that not amazing that she got caught in that?
What is this about?
She edited her gun control. It was supposed to be an even documentary,
Sure.
and she edited it to make it look like gun supporters didn't have an answer to a question.
But they did.
Oh, yeah.
She asked a question. They immediately answered the question, but they edited in a previous break where they were just sitting there
Looking.
And
Yeah.
so it made it look like they were stumped by the question. And initially she defended it and said, "Oh, we didn't do anything wrong." Well, she has now came out and said that was deceptive editing and we shouldn't have done it.
You think so?
By the way,
Katie's a hardcore.
HBO also did that in a documentary where they had an interview with the guy that designed the AR-15, and they edited out some of the comments he made to make the AR-15 seem more dangerous than it actually was.
All right, folks, that's all there is for today. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them